Before this video starts, don't complain about the horrible noise in the background. I'm at my aunts and uncles. What an Azerbaijan Grand Prix that was. Not so much because of the action that happened in the first 50 laps, but what happened in the last 2 laps. Race review with your host Liam Plutner for the 2021 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. So in qualifying, Charles Leclerc scored pole position ahead of Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, and off the start it was Hamilton that got the better start, eventually taking the lead from Leclerc. And then Verstappen and Perez took Leclerc as well, with Leclerc dropping down to 4th, with Perez 3rd, Verstappen 2nd, and Hamilton 1st. Further back, Esteban Ocon retires from the race due to car issues. The action begins when everyone pits, and Hamilton really had a mess. Hamilton's pit stop was horrendous, and as a result, he lost not only 1st to Verstappen, but 2nd to Perez. Both did overcut and had decent pit stops. Well, Perez not so much, but because he did cut past Hamilton. So after that point, it was Vettel ahead of Verstappen, ahead of Perez, that were the top 3. This was because Sebastian hadn't pitted yet and was still continuing on tyres that he started the race with. He would stay until lap 19 on these tyres when he made the switch to hard tyres after starting on softs. This proved out to be one of the best calls Aston Martin have ever made. Well, to be fair, it wouldn't be too difficult. They've only had a few races in this year. As Vettel was running in 6th place behind Leclerc, as Gasly overtook Leclerc, and it was the top 3 that I mentioned earlier. However, this was when it began to kick off. A safety car got deployed after the Aston Martin, Vettel's teammate Lance Stroll, crashed heavily on the straight of the track, the longest part of the track, which was over a mile long, and brought out the safety car. This was because of a tyre blowout, which was suspected to be caused by the Pirelli rubber. And the reason why this is to be known is because of an incident that happened later on in the race. Pirelli are the people who tyre supply it. Because of the overcuts that Verstappen and Perez both did, they jumped Hamilton, and they were looking good for a 1-2 finish, despite the safety car. However, as near the end of the race came, all chaos ensued, as Verstappen, from the race lead, suffered a puncture, and the really annoying thing was, my phone battery died shortly before that happened, so I didn't know what had happened. I just saw that the F1 group chat I'm in said, RIP Verstappen. That was the other incident I was referencing earlier about the Pirelli rubber, as Verstappen also suffered a puncture, also on the straights, but this time, I think everyone knew what happened. Hamilton asked the question over the radio if the Pirelli rubber had caused it, and his engineer, Peter Bonington, or as they call him, Bono, said, "We're not sure," which is a load of crap. He's just trying to make sure Lewis doesn't get angry at Pirelli over the radio, and as a result loses his concentration and crashes out of the race. But it's me foreshadowing, of course. As near the end of the race, a red flag got called because of Verstappen's crash, and Perez led from Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel, who'd somehow managed to work his way up to 3rd, following the safety car restart earlier, when he got past Leclerc, who was trying to get past Gasly, and then it was Gasly, Leclerc, and Norris. Off the restart, well, to put it simply, Hamilton bottled it. I pointed out that on the restart, Hamilton's tyres were extremely cooked, as on the restart, Hamilton's tyres, you know when you have food and you see steam coming off of it? That was what Hamilton's tyres were like. As he tried to challenge Perez into turn 1 for the lead, to put it simply, he went off, promoting Vettel to 2nd in his Aston Martin and Gasly up to 3rd in his AlphaTauri. The biggest thing that happened was the battle for 3rd, and that was between Leclerc and Gasly. Both of these drivers were fighting way for 3rd, and as a result, Lando Norris, who had just gotten past Yuki Tsunoda for 5th, had battled away with them for 3rd, all the way until the finish line. But Sergio Perez became Mexico's greatest ever racing driver statistically, following taking his 2nd win in Formula 1, his first for Red Bull, in what could be potentially a fantastic partnership for them. 2nd was Vettel, taking Aston Martin's first ever podium in Formula 1, and his first podium since Turkey 2020, in which he got past Sergio Perez, the man who coincidentally won the race and whose seat was taken by Vettel. And 3rd was Pierre Gasly, taking AlphaTauri's 2nd ever podium after the 2020 Italian Grand Prix in Milan, where Gasly took the win, with Gasly taking his 3rd podium in his Formula 1 career, following Brazil 2020 and his win at Milan in 2020. 20. In 4th place was, you could say I guess, a disappointed Charles Leclerc, who had been hoping for much more from a weekend in which he took pole position and the moment should have been his to win. However, this championship race has no implications on the championship, or does it? Perez moves up to 3rd due to Norris having a poor race down in 5th. Leclerc gets past Norris, Ferrari gets past McLaren, Red Bull extend their gap to Mercedes, who scored no points due to an incredibly disappointing race from Bottas. Kimi Räikkönen scored his first points of the year in 9th, and Tsunoda had a fantastic race, probably being the best Japanese performance from a driver since Kamui Kobayashi's performance at the 2012 Japanese Grand Prix, which was coincidentally, as I mentioned, in Japan. But now to run through the results. As I mentioned, the top 5. In 6th was Fernando Alonso, and an incredible performance from him in his Alpine, in which his teammate Esteban Ocon, of course, retired. 7th was Tsunoda, 8th was Sainz, 9th was Ricciardo, and 10th place was, as I mentioned, Kimi Räikkönen. And in the Constructors' Championship, things have not really changed. Or have they? Alfa Romeo have scored 2 points now this season, following Giovinazzi's point at the last round and Kimi's point at this round. And Ferrari have now overtaken McLaren in the fight for 3rd in the Constructors. And you could even say now Red Bull and Mercedes are now part of the midfield, as Bottas couldn't pass most of the drivers that were in front of him, with him up finishing 12th due to George Russell's retirement from the race, and Hamilton bottling it, as well as, of course, Verstappen's incident. 11th was Italian Jesus, Antonio Giovinazzi, with 13th being the sole remaining Williams of Latifi. Schumacher beat Mazepin only just at the line, with Mazepin somehow beating Lewis Hamilton in the race due to Hamilton's incredibly poor tyre wear at the end of the race, resulting in a lock-up into turn 1, which could prove instrumental in the championship fight, with Verstappen still leading up front in the drivers. So I've been your host, Liam Plutner. Sorry for the different background today. I'm at my aunts and uncles because my cousin's communion just happened. Thank you all for watching. Sorry if you heard a lot of background noise. I hope you enjoyed it.